Bruce County Public Library, and welcome to today's Local Author Talk. In this series, we'll chat with local authors about, to learn a little bit more about them and their work. Cindy Matthews is a multi-talented person who not only loves to express herself in writing, but also as an artist. Cindy has previously been featured on the art wall at the Walkerton Public Library, Walkerton branch of the Bruce County Public Library, and is a strong supporter of the library, and it's a pleasure to have her with us today.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it.
Today, Cindy will introduce us to her book of short stories, Took Me So Long. Welcome, Cindy.
Thank you.
To begin with, could you tell us a little bit about your book of short stories?
You bet. So this is a collection of 19 short stories, and all of the characters are different from story to story. The characters are basically flawed, and their roots are either in rural Ontario or they're on their way to rural Ontario to have an experience, and I explore that in each of the stories. So deeply flawed characters is the theme. That's my passion.
What words would you use to describe yourself as an author?
I'm definitely committed. I'm committed to short story form as a form. I'm also, I would say, investigative. So when I get curious about something, when I start thinking what if about a character, that's when I get really excited, because then I can explore a situation or a predicament for a character and kind of go wild. But only in 10 or 12 pages. So I contain myself. I like that constraint. So as an author, I'm also looking for constraints in my writing, because I only want to give myself a little while to take you, the reader, on an experience with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to do it through details, lots and lots of details, and I want to immerse you in a situation. But I also want to take you out of it so that you can recover from whatever it is I'm taking you to see and experience.
Yeah, some of the stories are fairly dark.
Yes. Yes.
With the deeply flawed characters.
Yes.
But there's also a lot of humor in it. You must have a dark sense of humor anyways.
I absolutely do.
Yeah.
I absolutely do. I like exploring humor in some of the stories, but I don't want to do it in every single story, because I don't consider myself per se to be humorous, but I like to let the reader recover a little bit through the more humorous side of the story.
I think that it's certainly not a humorous book, or no individual story is a humorous one.
Exactly.
There are moments of levity, or
Yes.
even just the ridiculousness.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Ramp Magazine recently did a review of the book, and I think the word weird might have come out in that.
Oh, really?
In that, just that I'm fascinated with that sort of weirdness of everyday life.
Right. And
as an author.
Other events of like war and the people living their lives.
Exactly.
You approach it from different angles.
That's right. That's right. And I think that's what's exciting too about short fiction, is that I can play with different containers for the writing. So 3 of them are written, I would say, more in the style of a letter or a blog, like that sort of a style. And I don't see myself ever doing that for an entire book, but playing with that in a short form is pretty fun and pretty awesome.
Where do you find the ideas come from? Where's your inspiration for writing for the stories?
They come from everywhere, which is fortunate, because I am never shy of ideas to explore. So for example, one of the stories is based on driving past a dumpster, like a clothing kind of disposal spot, and immediately, the idea of the story title came to mind, and it was The Domestic Life of the Picker, of a picker, I think it is. Anyway, that had to become a story. So why not, play with the what if scenario with that story, and have a woman who's with 3 men in her domestic situation. 2 are ex-husbands and 1 is an ex-boyfriend. And so I explore that whole dynamic in a short story.
Which should be terrifying in itself.
Exactly. But the point is that ideas are everywhere. So I read a lot, I eavesdrop a lot. That was difficult during COVID, of course, but now that we're out again, a little bit harder. But now that we're out in the world again, I love to sit in a coffee shop by myself, have a cup of coffee for an hour, and just make notes as people are chatting all around me, and see if inspiration can come from that. I walk a lot in the woods. You know, I live in a pastoral part of Bruce County, and it's so beautiful, and ideas come at me all the time. And certainly from radio too, like just different topics that are explored. Sometimes I go, and I just go to my notebook or on my phone and just type a little note to myself. You need to explore this a little bit more. So
This is very appropriate for short stories too.
Absolutely.
I remember my family used to play a game in airports or whatever where you keep everybody entertained and tell them a story about that guy.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a perfect scenario actually.
That kind of thing. So that's your day-to-day inspirations anyway, besides the other things that are mulling around.
Yes, exactly.
What do you find to be the most challenging thing about writing to getting the stories out, getting the books published?
Figuring out when you're done that story, because I guess I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, so I like to go back and rewrite, and I like to go back and edit so many times. And I just need to tell myself sometimes it's done. So I do workshop my stories with the writing group, and that helps me to know if it's done or not, or if I've accomplished what I've been setting out to do, because I have them as readers, right? And they're honest, and that's always helpful, and honest in a good way. I guess the other thing is if I'm on a roll, if I'm in flow of a story, because I like to write the story all at once, the first draft, the messy draft, and I'm writing by hand. What I find really frustrating is if the phone rings or a package arrives from Amazon and I'm interrupted, because then I sometimes can't get back to it very easily to wherever I was headed. So I hate being interrupted when I'm writing. That's really, really hard for me. But other than that, it hardly ever happens. But when it does, it's kind of irritating.
Yeah. Do you have any tricks to getting back in that frame of mind or back in that space or the atmosphere? It can be anything for a short story.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Again, going for a walk is really helpful because it's that whole pacing of, just emptying the brain and allowing the new thoughts to come in. And maybe a new ending is coming to that story anyway, if it is interrupted. So sometimes the possibilities are endlessly wonderful because I've gone through that process. Sometimes I just need to leave it for a few days and come back to it later. That's helpful too. A meditation is also very helpful. I have a hammock that I regularly use. So in the summer, in the good weather times, that I have a nice couch in the rest of the year with a nice wood stove nearby. And all of those things are really good for getting into that spot that's between asleep and awake.
Right.
And there's just a little moment sometimes when epiphanies will come. So maybe I did lose my train of thought if I was interrupted, but then I can pick it up in a new way, and then I'm excited again and I can get back at it.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. It's interesting to think of that the comfort of like this wood stove and a couch and settling in, but maybe it's the no other anxieties or worries too, where you can let your mind go to other places.
Exactly. And I'm really fortunate. Everybody in our family's in a good spot. There's no chaos. There are no too flawed characters really in my family.
Good day,
Who am I kidding?
Which one is your mother?
Yeah, that's right.
What would you say is your favorite literary character or book?
I'm a huge fan of Alice Munro. I used to actually volunteer for the festival as a reader of the stories that were entered into the contests for youth and adult categories. So I was like a pre-reader. So I did that for a few years. So I'm really committed to the forms, really committed. And I really like her writing. I can only read a few of her stories at a time. I find some of them really, really dark sometimes and heavy. I really like the work of another short story writer, Canadian as well, Deborah Willis. She's out of Calgary now, and she's just come out with a novel. So she's got 3 books out in the world, and she used to work on her own books, coincidentally. And I guess I would be remiss if I left out Joyce Carol Oates, a U.S. author who writes prolifically, especially short stories, and also novels and memoir and you name it.
Well,
so those are 3 off the top of my head.
I think working in the library, I don't see it as much movement in short stories as I think they are owed.
Yeah, that's fair.
I've read we've talked before, and I've picked up more short stories since, but
Awesome.
I used to read quite a lot of them, and I really, people talk about the unputdownable books where it's chapter by chapter. I like books with short chapters. Anyway, because they're like, oh, I'll read another one next time.
Yes.
And I find that with short stories, that happens, but a short story, and if you feel like reading more, it won't be the same. It takes you to another place, to another adventure, or another thought process. Or so much more happens in that unputdownable sort of space.
Yeah, that's a good way.
More time before bed where you're like, one more.
Just one more.
Yeah.
Just one more.
I think you've done. Was it hard to put these stories in this collection? Because I think you have more written than it took so long.
What I was looking for this collection was basically unifying the collection by have everybody be connected to rural. Whereas the collection that's coming out next year doesn't necessarily have that. It's also about deeply flawed characters, but this time it'll be about people who don't fit in.
Okay.
So slightly different angle.
Yeah.
So when I was putting this collection together, there were actually 21 stories in the original collection that I sent in my manuscript to the publisher, but they said, you know what, we like these 19 if you're okay with it, Matthew. So I said, absolutely, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
So the next collection also has 19 stories at this time, so who knows, it could have 17 at some point.
Slip in one of the other.
Yeah, slip in one of the other bits, right? So we'll see. So that's the unifying factor for this, and that's why this cover was chosen. It's the whole vibe that I wanted for the first one.
Difficult process, I think. But I think they did very well. They do have a feeling that they're tied together. And deeply flawed, but the characters are sort of inherently relatable. It may be more extreme than the feelings we have, but it's certainly coming from a spot you can I feel like this sometimes. Or
great.
Yeah,
that's music to my ears, because that's what I wanted is for everybody to be connected to the stories. It might not have been your story, but you get it.
Yeah, and that's certainly something that in the short story you can do. There are short story characters I would read, but I would not read 90 chapters about this person.
Right.
I don't want to do that deep into it.
Yeah, that's right. But with the 8 or 10 pages or 12 pages or 20 pages, you can say, yeah, I can get to know this person for a bit and be okay with that. And at the end of the day, I get them. I get who they are and I empathize, and that's what we want.
Yeah.
Right? As writers. So great.
Well, thank you very much, Cindy. Thanks for sharing your time and your work with us today. And if you're looking for whether it's short stories or not, I encourage you to read Cindy's book. It took you so long. You can contact her through her website and on Facebook. We'll add links to that information on the descriptions at the end of this video. Thank you very much.
Thank you.